Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is the Blue Line Blast podcast. I'm your host, Jim Biringer, back alongside Matthew Blittner. Here, we got a lot to discuss as we're winding down. As we're getting close to Thanksgiving, we're not there yet. We're not even close to those standings that everybody likes to look at. Matthew, welcome back. I think we got a lot to discuss tonight, right?
Oh, we have a lot to discuss, Jim. And it's not so much the hockey that we have lots to discuss. It's the weird and wild that we've got a lot to discuss. And shout out to Jason Stott of The Athletic for his his strange but true weird and wild columns that baseball fans grew up loving. But yeah, Jim, I don't even know where to begin with the news that came out over the weekend.
I mean, Friday news dump. I think it gives a new meaning to a Friday news dump. When we got the news, Jack Hughes would be missing the Washington Capitol game on Saturday with a non-related hockey injury. Come to find out, he had surgery on his hand. It's a little murky about how things went down. Supposedly, he slipped and fell on some glass, leaned on some glass. Regardless, he had surgery. He's going to be out 8 weeks, reevaluated after 6 weeks. And the Devils are out without Jack Hughes yet again for another season. And they pulled one out Saturday. I mean, Simone Nemec, this kid's on fire right now, had a hat trick against Chicago, and they do it in Chicago at a restaurant at a team dinner. And he played well against the Islanders, tied the game up. But it's going to be a gritty, grindy effort for this team. But, I mean, you can't make this stuff up with this team. You really can't anymore.
Look, first of all, the amount of people that the Devils have, and the Devils have not been a fully 100% healthy team, I'm telling you, since before COVID.
Probably, yeah.
The last time the Devils were fully healthy was 2019, and I will not be convinced otherwise.
Now, and maybe even before that.
Yeah, and maybe even before that. Now, I know everyone was like, oh, people on social media, they were blaming Frank the Tank at first, being like, oh, well, the Devils were at Frank the Tank's birthday dinner. Okay, first of all, that was BS. Okay? They were not at Frank the Tank's birthday dinner. It just so happened that he was at the same AIM restaurant, and he managed to convince them to take a photo with him. That's not the case, people. Next up, people think that, he got cut on a steak knife. I know a lot of people ran with that at first. No, our colleague and pal Tristy Flannery from the Hockey News, she was the first to report that he leaned on on a glass and it broke. I know a lot of people are speculating, oh, well, was he drinking too much or what was going on? Those are things that we don't know. We're not going to start any rumors. No. But the fact of the matter is that Jack Hughes, in his career, has played more than 65 games one time. One time. Jim, that's not good. And I know he's an electric, dynamic player, but this speaks to a larger thing, too, because, I mean, if you look at all the injuries that the Devils have, you Dougie Hamilton and Cody Glass, Brett Pesce, I know Brendan Dillon's banged up.
Dadonov,
Jonathan Tovasevich. Jim, I know some people and even some fellow writers have been saying, you have to burn some sage in Prudential Center to ward out, whatever evil is there. That's not even enough. You need a full-blown exorcism, okay?
Seriously.
You need a full-blown exorcism. Bring in the witch doctor. Bring in, bring in whoever you can bring in. Bring in, like, the various cultural, tribal leaders from whatever, mystic places and just get them all together in a room at Prudential Center, maybe right at center ice or something like that. So this is getting ridiculous at this point. Like, I think Dillon missed a few shifts during the game against Washington Saturday. He's a bit banged up. We know that he, took a bit of a maintenance stay at practice. Jim, I almost hate to say it, but who's next? What's next?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's next. I mean, like this team, it seems like everybody's going down. I mean, Dillon had the maintenance days. Good to see Dougie Hamilton back on the ice. Connor Brown's back on the ice. Let's see how they do after the trip. Both were in regular uniform, so hopefully Connor Brown, whatever he was dealing with, hopefully he can walk off the trip and play and skate and play for this team. I think, look, as much as Jack Hughes stinks, and it stinks, like he's playing fantastic, right? I think Cody Glass is a big loss too, because you and I were in a press conference when, Sheldon Keefe talked about Cody Glass 5-on-5. He was having a terrific season. Second time he's been injured. He just brings something different for the Devils in that bottom six. It kind of balances everything out. And now you're moving things around. Mercer back in the middle again. Look, they were able to beat Washington, big win. They got a win on the road in Chicago. So this road trip is starting out a lot better than the last road trip did. Hopefully they get reinforcements. Looks Donoff's going on the trip. From the video I saw from practice, doesn't even look like he was shooting yet. Looks like he was stick handling mostly. So it's probably still a little bit before he's going to play. But it's a good sign that he's back in the lineup. Yeah, I mean, look, hopefully no one's next, because I don't know if they can survive anything, especially on the back end. Like no one else can go down on the back end, especially on the right side, because the whole right side has been decimated. So hopefully Hamilton can play. It's just one of these weird things. Like somebody's saying this thing's like the arena's on a burial ground. Maybe they cursed. Like it's just out of control. But I agree. I think exorcism needs to happen at center ice. Something, spirits, got to get it. Tobin Spirit Guide. Something's got to be done, because I'm going to tell you this right now. The Devils need to make a big playoff run. They need to make a deep playoff run. Matty Laughlin, our guy on here, came out and said it. Find out what you want to be, because guess what? Injuries aren't an excuse anymore, right? Every team in the league goes through them. Got to grind these games out. Got to find a way. Got to dig deep. And look, Jake Allen stood on his head the other night, 2-0. That game shouldn't go to a shootout. It did, but you find a way. So time to rack up those points, survive, tread water, and hopefully Jack Hughes isn't out longer than 8 weeks.
Look, Jim, I'm reminded of what Sheldon Keefe said at the end of their last home game, when I asked him about the increased opportunities for Simone Nemec, and what did he think of it? And he sort of, I don't want to say he bristled at it, but he sort of was just like, well, who else do we got back there? What other options do we have?
We got 3 guys out of the lineup.
Right. So with Jack going down, with Cody Glass going down, and I know people can say, well, this is what you have a farm team for. This is what you have an AHL team for. Jim, I very firmly believe that Sheldon Keefe is right. Who else is going to play right now? It's almost like on a nightly basis trying to figure out like the jigsaw puzzle of not necessarily who you want to play where, but what available bodies do you have to play? Right. And that's not the way to go through a season. And nope. As you said, injuries are not an excuse at this point. But, and I'm not going to make an excuse, but at some point, the scales have to tip the other way, don't they? Like, the Devils have lost, what is it, the second most games manpower-wise this year? Yeah. And I think the 5th most manpower days lost in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
At some point, they have to get help. Jim, I'm very tempted to say, you know what? I'm not tempted to say. I'm going to say it.
Say it.
If the Devils were ever 100% fully healthy, they're winning the Stanley Cup.
That's
okay.
That's not hard to believe. I would back that statement.
This level team with basically a revolving door of who's injured on a daily basis, they're winning the Stanley Cup if they're ever fully 100% healthy for a season.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I 100% agree with that, because they have the tools. They've got the depth, right? This is why you get the depth players. But they're going to have to go out and do something, right? Like, at some point, you're going to have to look back and say, okay, we can't let trade deadline and injuries determine and change our plans. Like, I think, everybody's speculating what Tom Fitzgerald could do, who he can go get. Look, as much as Blake Coleman of the Calgary Flames would be great, you and I have seen the track record of Tom Fitzgerald bringing back former Devils. It's not really that high. Like, Stefan Nason's like the only one that I could think of off the top of my head that he brought back that left, right? Adam Henrique, there were plenty of chances for Henrique to come back. Didn't happen. I know he traded Coleman away. not sure he gets him back. I'm just going to be honest. I'm not sure he comes back. I mean, I look at Ryan O'Reilly in Nashville, Braden Shen in St. Louis. Those are a couple of guys to me that would be good fits because I just don't think with the teams in the division like Pittsburgh, Columbus, the Islanders, like if Columbus and Islanders are near a playoff spot come the trade deadline, they're not giving up their guys. So, and you go out west, Wenberg maybe, but I think O'Reilly from Nashville would be like a perfect fit for this team. He allows the flexibility just to move up and down that lineup.
Yeah, no, I've seen all the reports about O'Reilly. I'm not convinced that he's going to be the answer.
No.
I was just looking actually while you were saying it. I don't even think bringing back Tyler Toffoli would be that much of a help. I mean, he's only got 11 points this year in like 15 games. And he was very good for the Devils.
The top line anyway. He was great for that top line.
But they do need a center, and I'm trying to think of centers who might be available. Dude, you can't even say, oh well, would you convert Pavel Zacha to a center?
No. And Pavel Zacha is not coming back to New Jersey.
No, he's not. So it's like there is no one there. And Jim is. I know everyone's gonna be like the pipe dream. Oh well, if Pittsburgh falls out, why don't we go further to Sidney Crosby?
Crosby's not going. First of all, if Pittsburgh fell out, I'm going to tell you right now, Montreal Canadiens will sell the farm to go get Sidney Crosby.
So will the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Those two teams are way up on the list for Sidney Crosby than the New Jersey Devils. Okay, let's just be honest.
Yes, and Jim, we're going to talk with the guest about the Colorado Avalanche in just a moment. But yeah, this is not quite the year where the Devils are going to necessarily find that center on the market. Yeah. That's going to be that help. So as Nico Hischier said the other day, they have to weather the storm. Guys are just going to have to step up. They're used to it at this point. And they're just going to have to, wait for the cavalry to arrive. Hopefully Dougie Hamilton's back, next couple of days. Tony Glass is week to week. Brett Pesce, what are we looking at? Maybe January or something that.
We don't even know.
Kovacevic, well, what are we looking at?
January.
Jack Hughes, we're looking at probably,
January.
Probably closer to February, honestly. Yeah. Just because, you have to give him a chance to work back into it a little bit. You're not going to throw him back out there the very first day that he's, so, this is a team that needs to just do away with whatever evil spirits, as we've been saying.
And, bye, evil spirits. Bye.
You know what? I believe the press box at the old Meadowlands was called the Halo. Yes. I believe Lou Lamoriello used to call it the Halo. So, you know what? Maybe start praying. Maybe get a guardian angel to come swoop down. I don't know. But, Jim, that's enough speculation on divine intervention on our part. On the other side of this non-existent sponsor break, with the plain muds, we're going to talk with Cory Masiak of the Denver Post, who is going to talk to us about the Colorado Avalanche. So, Jim, why don't we head over there? All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from our non-existent sponsor break. I'm Matthew Blittner, of course, Jim Biringer, our lovely co-host over here, and we're now joined by our special guest of the evening from the Denver Post, Cory Masiak. Cory, I hope I finally got the pronunciation of your last name correct. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Our pleasure. Now, Cory, before we get into who you cover, we're obviously the Colorado Avalanche, the number one team in the league right now. On Thursday of last week, the hockey world suffered, pretty big loss with the passing of New York Post reporter Larry Brooks. Obviously, you gotten to know Larry a little bit while covering the Devils for The Athletic in the late 2010s. Just any thoughts or tribute you want to share?
Yeah, it was. It was obviously shocking. I've known Larry. The funny thing is, I met Larry. I think I was covering the Washington Capitals, or had just started covering the Capitals. This is way back, in the 2007-ish range. My roommate, whenever I lived in Northern Virginia, is Larry's son's one of his best friends. So At one point we were like at I think it was like a couple of weeks after his son's wedding, because like my roommate had gone to it, and so like I saw him at the rink. I think we were at the Garden, and he just like came over and was like, "Are you my roommate Andrew's roommate?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so we talked about the wedding, and like from that point, it was like I've told like lots of people obviously in the last few days. He like I mean Larry. His legacy is like he's the best hockey writer in America ever, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. I've tried to think of some other people who are even, I mean, maybe that's unfair to a couple of other people, but like, he's certainly in this very small group of like the best hockey writer from this country ever. But he was also like, especially even back then, like, I mean, I'm like in my middle 20s, right? He was very intimidating, like from the outside. And like, you saw all the videos of him getting into it with Torts. I actually was present for one of those during the 2009 playoffs when the Capitals and Rangers were playing each other. But like, yeah, once you got to know him, once he got to know you, maybe is a better way to put it. He was like one of the nicest people, one of the nicest people you'd meet. Like like whenever I would get a new job, or I've changed jobs a lot over the last 20 years or so, like he would always, like the first time I'd see him, like, how you doing? How's it going? All that, like, it didn't shock me at all that like there has been like an outpouring of like people talking about how nice he is or how he's helped them along the way. It's just, I think that's just who he is. I technically did work with him for like 6 or 7 months. But right before I started covering the Devils, I had moved back to New York for the second time and was working at the New York Post. I worked on the desk there, and honestly, like I worked on Saturday mornings. So that was like my one weekend day, and like getting to be the person who edited like Larry's Sunday Slapshot column and like Joel Sherman's Sunday column and like all that stuff. Like that was one of the coolest things I've got to do in my career, even though I was only there for a very short amount of time. Like I always tell people, the two coolest things about working at the New York Post and being on the desk there was getting to be in the afternoon meeting every day when they tried to decide what that back page headline was. And then also being the person who was in there on Saturday morning and got to read all of that Sunday copy. That was, it was great.
Yeah. I mean, Larry Brooks, one of the best. I mean, him and I would swap stories with, when Henrik Lundqvist went in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Everybody remembers the Stadium Series in 2014 when Marty Brodeur wanted to come out of the game. Really didn't want to play the game, but that's a different story for another time. But yeah, great outpouring of emotion for Larry Brooks. Such a good guy. Never easy transition to make it. But yeah, obviously, he covered the Colorado Avalanche, one of the hottest teams in the National Hockey League right now, if not the hottest. They re-signed and extended Marty Necas $11.5 million on that AAV. They get him after they traded Mikko Rantanen to Carolina before Rantanen ends up back in Dallas in the same division. What did you think of the contract, and how does he fit in with this team? And it looks like he's even upped his game even more to prove that he's worth that $11.5 million.
Yeah, the fit has been pretty seamless from day one. Like not only does he have to deal with kind of like the shadow of Mikko Rantanen, but he's also literally playing in his spot, right? Like it's that spot next to Nathan McKinnon, and he's very different. Like they're two completely different players, but they're also both very good at hockey. And I think that's probably the biggest thing is like, he plays a different style than Mikko did, but like Nate recognized pretty quickly that will also work for him and that they work pretty well together. I think whatever his numbers were last year, they were like basically a career high in points, maybe not quite in goals. He's definitely going to set a career high in goals this year, like that, unless he gets hurt. Like he's already at whatever it is. I think he's up. He put one in the empty net last night, so I think he's second in the league in goals right now. Nate's first. So I don't know if he's ever going to be 100% of the player that Mikko Rantanen was, and honestly, like the Avalanche don't necessarily need him to be. I mean, that it wasn't like a 1-for-1 trade. They also got like their third or fourth line center. They got some picks. They got some cap flexibility, all that stuff. But I do think that like, if things could have worked out differently with the Avs and Rantanen, and if that contract had come up 1 year earlier or 1 year later, Mikko would still be playing in Denver. But it's just that 1 year that it came up, it just wasn't right for either of them. like if he was on the team right now and making $12 million, this team it would look very different because Netchis is only making 6.5 right now. It goes up to 11.5 next year. So yeah, I mean, I think for now, I mean, he's going to be an easy fit for them. He's going to, score 30, 35 goals and put up 80 to 90 points probably. And then I think the whole thing is really going to come down to what he does in the playoffs. I mean, it's really I think some Avs fans are still kind of in denial about how great Mikko Rantanen has been in the playoffs. They've always kind of seen it as it's just him playing next to one of the two best players in the world. But they saw it last year, right? I mean, he literally put them out of the playoffs, by himself almost. So, I don't think Marty has to be that level every year in the playoffs, but I think he's got to have 2 or 3 really good playoff runs. And look, if they win another Stanley Cup, people will forget all about that to some degree.
Well, it's a great point that you made, but you said something interesting about it, how it was, if it was a year earlier, a year later, the rumor was that they wanted to get Rantanen, that Rantanen wanted an 8x12, that he wanted 8 years, 12 million per. Now, whether that's accurate or not, I guess only a few people in the know would actually know that for sure. But do you feel that this team, that the organization wanted Natchez more than they wanted Rantanen, or do you feel it was literally just a numbers game of when the contract came up? Because as you said, they are different players playing in the same.
I mean, I think it's 80% of it is just the numbers didn't fit on January 23rd or whatever it was. I mean, I think the deal was look, Mikko signed for 8 times 12 with Dallas, but on January 23rd, he was not willing to take that deal. And there are a lot of Avs fans that are still, pissed off at him. They're like, he should have just, if he was going to sign for 8 times 12, he should have just said, I'll do that in January. He would still be playing for the Avalanche. That may be true, but that's not how negotiations work. I think it's very rare for a negotiation to go that way, where it's it started out as, it's pretty clear that, no one has ever confirmed all of these numbers exactly, but it's very clear that Mikko Rantanen was looking for something similar to what Leon Draisaitl got, which was 8 times 14. And the Avs, there have been 3 or 4 different numbers that have been reported by, all the newsbreakers have all had kind of a slightly different number. I think Pierre LeBrun's was 11.65. I've seen 11.3 was one of them. It was below 12. It's kind of immaterial. Basically, they weren't willing to go to 14 or 13.5 or whatever that was in January. And Mikko's camp wasn't willing to come down to 12 in January. I keep saying in January because the weirdest part of this whole saga was that they traded him on January 24th, which, if you go back through the history of the NHL, very, very few times has a team traded a core player in the last year of their contract before the last minute, right? I mean, the Leafs went clear to June before they traded Mitch Marner, right before the draft or whatever. But generally speaking, it seems pretty clear from all the parties involved, at least Mikko's camp and the other players on the Avalanche, everybody was stunned that the Avs made this trade in January. Everybody thought that they had at least until March, if not until June, to get this deal done. The Avs, for whatever reason, there's a few different things. One of them is the last time they had to negotiate a contract with Rantanen, it was pretty testy. He held out for a little bit during training camp. Maybe that was still in the back of their mind. Maybe there just was. And look, the other thing is, the thing that I don't think people have talked about enough is that they did the deal not necessarily to get Marty Netchis, but they did the deal because he was part of it. If you in last year in November, December, it was well, if they did trade Mikko Rantanen, who would they get for him? And at that time, if you tried to name name 5 players out there that might be available that would be worth giving up this amazing player for, and Netchis was the 1 or 2 guys that was well, he's young, he's super talented, he's already requested a trade, so he might be available. That was and so I think that kind of filtered into that deal. And now conversely, this year, if I said to you, name another 25 or 26-year-old player out there that you could trade Marty Netchis for, I don't. That's a lot of that stuff. So I really do think that the fact that they got him done, maybe 11.5 is a little bit more than they wanted to give him. But given where the cap is going, that's fine. And the fact that I think they kind of struck lightning a little bit with getting Netchis, a player of Netchis' caliber, for Rantanen. I don't know if they were going to be able to do that again.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at it, and a lot of it had to do with the guy that's due and is eligible this summer, right? I mean, Cale Makar's due for an extension, and he's going to get a nice paycheck come on his next extension when he signs it. Who knows? But I mean, one of the best defensemen, if not the best defenseman in the National Hockey League right now. And what is he making? $9 million, $9.5 million. He's gonna get close to what Nate's making, maybe a little bit more, Corey?
I would think the funny thing is, to tie the two things together, they traded Mikko on, I think it was a Friday night in Boston. They had to play that afternoon, the Saturday afternoon in Boston. So it was literally 12 hours after the trade. They're playing a game. Game ends. We go in the locker room. They're all still just it's not often that you would see players all just have this shell-shocked look on their face on January 24th or whatever it was. But go over to talk to Nathan MacKinnon. It was very raw. He was very emotional. He was completely floored that they had done it. Over the course of that interview, he said, I don't blame Mikko at all. He should ask for as much money. He deserves all the money. And then he said, I believe the exact quote was, Cale's coming up. He's worth $20 million. And so I was like, yes, that's true, but I'm guessing his boss probably didn't want him to say that, right? So look, yes, it's the same. It's the Connor McDavid thing. There's only, to me, it's it's McDavid, it's McKinnon, it's Cale Makar, it's Quinn Hughes, and maybe coming up now, it's Celebrini and Bedard, where it's literally they get a blank check. And then the thing is that you hope that they don't ask for it all. I think where the cap is going to be, I think 20% of the cap in Cale's first year of his new contract, he could make $22.5 million, which is, that doesn't even make sense to us in the hockey world. That's normal in some other, but so if Cale didn't like Denver or was mad about something or wanted to leave, some team out there would probably give him $22 million a year because he's the best defender, just incredible. I don't think they're going to expect him to take as little as Connor McDavid did or stay right by there was some of that with Rantanen where it was well, are the Avs going to be willing to pay him more than Nathan MacKinnon? Is Nate going to be okay with that? It's very clear with Cale. That's not, Nate is, there's no oh no, he shouldn't get 12. He'll get whatever. He'll get as much as he wants that they can afford, and they hope that it's not, it's more closer to, let's say, 14 or 15 and not, 18 or 20. But, I can't imagine a team. I can't even imagine the Avalanche saying no to if he demands 20 because there is no other there's no other, but there, Quinn Hughes is the only player that's even in his, and maybe we could talk about it. Maybe Matthew Schaefer will be in a few years, but that's it. That's the league that Cale plays in, a different league. So, if you want to have that advantage over every other team in the league, you might have to pay for it.
But Cale Makar is the baseball equivalent of what Mariano Rivera always was. I believe it was the Twins manager at the time, Kelly, who said that, I don't know where that higher league is, but when speaking about Rivera, but he needs to go there because he's too good for here in the major leagues. And that's Cale Makar and the NHL in a nutshell. Now, the Avs did recently just extend another player in Scott Wedgwood. Now, maybe it flies under the radar a little bit because I believe it's only a 1-year deal. And Wedgwood has basically been a career backup. But, if you look at Wedgwood's numbers this year, and I know that Blackwood has dealt with some injuries, but Wedgwood's taking the ball and he's run with it, So what do you make out of how Wedgwood's been playing this year? And did the Avs expect that they were going to get this type of performance from him?
He's been great. There was he played the first, I think it was the first 10 or the first 11. And there was a point in there where there was back-to-back games where it was okay, this looks like a guy who very rarely plays 10 games in a row. It looked like the schedule was wearing on him. He needed a break. So they played Trent Miner, who was their number 3 goalie because Blackwood still wasn't ready. They played him for a game. That was the game in New Jersey, actually. And then Wedgwood came back and played. And then now they're basically just rotating every other game now that Blackwood is healthy. Look, Mackenzie Blackwood is their number one goalie. He's rusty. He said he feels fine. He's just, he needs the reps. The problem is that the other guy is just playing great, and there's not really anything, like Jared Bednar said, that he's not going to give Blackwood extra games just because he needs them. He's going to play who he thinks is going to win. And so, like, right now they're kind of just in an every other game rotation. The Scott Wedgwood thing is insane. Like, I mean, I knew him a little bit back whenever I covered the Devils. I knew Mackenzie a lot better, obviously, but he has been, like you said, he's been, a career backup. He's never played more than like 30 or 32 games in an NHL season. And yet, like, over the past few years, like, he had a couple of really good years in Dallas. And the thing with Nashville was crazy. He played 4 games for them, and they decided that, the whole team was a mess, so they wanted to get younger. But the idea that they traded Scott Wedgwood for Justus Anunen, who is, may not be an NHL goaltender full time, over the long haul here. And the Avs got Scott Wedgwood for, against, again, like their backup goalie basically. And he is now 24-5-3 since the trade. Like he's started. It's if you put all that together, if that was over the course of 1 year, you're like, Jesus, he's in the Vezina. Right now, look, I don't know if people are doing like Vezina trackers and all that stuff right now, but it would be hard not to put him in there. He's got 3 more wins than anybody else. He's second in the league in goals against, and I think he's 4th in save percentage. So he's in there. I fully expect that at some point, relatively soon, Mackenzie Blackwood will get his kind of game in order, and they'll go back to him playing 2 out of every 3 games, and that'll be the way it is. But the fact is, like, the Avs can win the President's Trophy this year, or at least win the West. And if they do, it's going to be because Scott Wedgwood had this crazy run to start the season. They are kind of laying the foundation for a run at winning the division, winning the conference, winning the President's Trophy, and the fact that their number one goalie has played 3 games so far this year is kind of insane.
Yeah, it is kind of insane. The fact is that the Avs are rolling. And look, you always say to yourself, okay, they bring in Brock Nelson last year at the deadline. Obviously, they get Jack Drury. But if you look at this team, and every team wants to make a deep run and get back to a Stanley Cup, the Avs do, because what made them so good was their depth, and they haven't. And look, Arturi Lehkonen is, that was a hell of a trade. Same with signing Val Nichushkin. It feels like when he's out of the lineup, the Avs don't go anywhere, but they seem to have the depth now to overcome that. But if you were looking at it, come the trade deadline or come down the rest of the season, and you say to yourself, okay, where's an area of need for the Colorado Avalanche to help them make a deep, deep run in the playoffs and get back to a Stanley Cup? Where are you looking?
Yeah, I think there's still it's again, I was just talking about this with one of the other Avs writers the other day. It still feels like the same team. Like it's weird. We don't know when this is going to cross over from like just a hot start to like, oh no, like they're just better than we thought they were going to be. Like, so at the beginning of the season, the biggest issue was that they only have 2 left-handed defensemen, and it's weird to play with 4 righties. Most teams don't do that. Now, Josh Manson and Brent Burns together have become this like weirdly very good. I don't know if anybody expected them to be as good as they've been, but that has worked. So I do think that they will probably be looking for a left-handed defenseman of some kind. And then the other thing is Jack Drury is the number 3 center right now. He's playing well. That line is playing well, but I think Jared Bednar still realizes that he would like Drury to be his 4th center. Like that's the 4th center right now is the kid from Russia who they got from the Devils, Zahar Bardakov, and he's fine. He's not hurting them. He's just kind of like the thing that Bednar likes to say is he doesn't want players to come up and just survive. He wants them to thrive. Zahar is kind of somewhere in the middle. He's surviving most nights. He has a good night every night. But I do think that between now and March, they will probably add another center, because I think the one thing with the Avs that will be a little bit different, if you think back to the last couple of years, especially like last year, like Winnipeg and Washington were the 2 best teams in the regular season, and they both kind of played we don't want to upset the apple cart with our chemistry card at the deadline, and that didn't work. And so I don't think the Avs know they don't, if they're leading the NHL standings on February 15th, they're still going to be trying to add, and they're still going to be looking for, I'm guessing, injuries or whatever could come up. But if if everybody is relatively healthy, I think they'll still be looking for a middle six center and probably a left-handed depth defenseman.
Very well put, Cory. And we thank you so much for coming on the Blue Line Blast podcast to break down the Avs, easily the hottest team in the NHL, and arguably if you were going to be a betting man, the number one pick to win the Stanley Cup at this moment. Other than that, again, Cory, thanks so much for coming on, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure to check out Cory's work at the Denver Post, and we'll be back with more Blue Line Blast podcast after another word from our non-existent sponsor. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for my second non-existent sponsor break of the show. Jim, I was waiting for you to hold up the mug again. Come on, you got to hold up the mug again.
Maybe one day, right here, guys.
One day.
Right here.
Yeah, we just had a great conversation about the Colorado Avalanche with our pal from the Denver Post, Cory Masiak. I know I kept butchering his name.
Cory Masiak.
Cory Masiak. Cory, I'm sorry when you watch this later on. But Jim, now that we have one last thing to talk about here on the show, Adrian Kempe, free agent frenzy, not a thing anymore.
No, not even close to a thing. Won't even be a thing for a while. Adrian Kempe, 8 years, $10.625 million AAV, staying with the Los Angeles Kings. He had talked about it on the North America Player Tour. He said he wanted to be in LA. LA wanted to keep him, but the price range, LA came up a lot. Like the first initial offers were talking from people out in LA said, hey, you know what? We'll only give you 8.5, 9. He wanted more. He wanted to say, he even said after he scored the OT winner in Dallas when he went horns down, he said that he still wanted to be in LA. His family loved it in there. LA, and let's be honest, the LA Kings really couldn't afford to lose him because Anze Kopitar was retiring. We really don't know what the future is for Drew Doughty. They already lost Gavrikov last year. And with the contract that he signed with the Rangers, many people are wondering why the LA Kings didn't sign Gavrikov to that deal. So they had to keep Adrian Kempe. He's been their best goal scorer. He's been a clutch goal scorer for them in the playoffs. 29 points, 28 games. So, yeah, it's a great deal. Great AAV. As I tweeted out the other day, I said, you look at Connor McDavid's deal, $12.5 million. I think that the LA Kings basically told Kempe, hey, look, you want to win here? You got to help us win here. You're going to take some less because a lot of people thought he was going to get somewhere around the Marty Necas deal, maybe the Kyle Connor deal, and instead he takes less than both guys.
Look, Jim, getting him under $11 million in per, absolute steal for the Kings. Like that's, I don't think any predictor, prognosticator, insider, anyone, I don't think anyone we've spoken to thought that he was going to come in at under $11 million a year. That just was not going to happen. The fact that it did happen speaks to, again, he said he wants to be in LA and he put his money where his mouth is. He stayed true to it. But Jim, now that he's staying in LA, all the free agents of note are signed. Name a free agent other than Artemi Panarin.
Alex Tuch.
Oh, Alex Tuch is getting signed soon. Either that, or he's going to get traded and sign an extension at the deadline to whoever he gets traded to.
All right, so Alex Tuch is off the board. So I was looking at last night when everybody was talking about, all these players where they could go, right? Oh, we have all this free agency frenzy. Oh, who's left on the board? Well, Puckpedia, somebody put out Puckpedia's list. Okay, well, this list has to be adjusted because I'm adjusting it for people, and I adjusted it last night. Anze Kopitar shouldn't be on UFA class of 2026. He said he was retiring. Bye. So he's off the list. Sergei Bobrovsky, whatever he decides to sign in Florida, he's off the list. Alex Ovechkin's either re-signing with the Washington Capitals, retiring, or going to play in the KHL. So he's off the list.
He'll be kindly retiring from
the
NHL.
John Carlson staying in Washington. So, he's not going anywhere. Okay? All you have left is Anders Lee, Kevin Hayes, Jacob Trouba, Patrick Laine, Artemi Panarin, and Alex Tuch right now. Like that ain't anything special.
Yeah, look, Panarin's the number one guy, and so far he, according to sources, he doesn't want to take a penny less than what he's currently making, which is what 11.6 something.
Yep.
Jim, I don't know that he's gonna get that.
No.
Elsewhere, not at his age, and not for the length of deal he's gonna want. But Jim, I'm gonna make a very bold, maybe absurd statement. Okay. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I don't think this is going to happen. But I'm going to go ahead and say it just to mess with all those fans out there. Okay. Going to be a little antagonistic. Have a little heel turn at the moment.
Ooh. Like my heel turn on the Rock crowd with Cody Rhodes.
You've been heel on the Rock crowd for years. If the Rangers are not in the playoff conversation come the trade deadline, and I know right now, they still have their home woes, but they're, the best team in the league on the road. Watch them trade Artemi Panarin to the New Jersey Devils, who need another top six winger.
Never gonna happen.
No,
never gonna happen. Never gonna happen.
Just get the people talking and put it to fear in Ranger fans' heads that, oh no, he's going to go to the Devils.
Yeah, no.
That would be something.
I mean, it would be something. It would be very shocking. Never gonna happen. But I don't disagree with the fact that if the Rangers are not in it by the deadline, that he gets moved. Like, I don't disagree with that. Because, for me, I think the direction of this team is going to determine a lot. And if there's some reports I'm hearing that the Rangers only want to give him a 3-year deal, he wants a 5-year deal, like, at his age, and he wants the same amount of money, I'm not sure. I'm convinced that he should take, get that same deal with the Rangers or any team. And if there's another team that's out there that wants to pay him that's great. Then he'll go to July 1st and he'll walk. But if they're out of it and not even close, I think they would have to consider trading him and trading him probably out of the Eastern Conference to put him on a contender in the West, because they're not going to want to see him re-up with another team, especially if it's Florida, because then they got to deal with that again. But look, I do agree that I think he could get moved. I agree that Alex Tuch could get moved. Right now, Tage Thompson is not moving out of Buffalo, but again, I'll believe that when I see it. However, the Devils do need a scoring punch up front. And right now, free agency frenzy this is what's going to be the norm moving forward with the cap going up. A lot of GMs want to keep what they have. They want to know what they have. Might as well keep what you have. So I love the deal for Kempe and the Kings, by the way. I think that's just a great, great deal.
Great deal for the Kings. Bad deal for those of us who are paid to cover the league and who celebrate July 1st as, almost something akin to a national holiday, because July 1st, you may as well not even set the alarm for at this point.
No, absolutely not. You could go golfing that day, go on a fishing boat, do something, because not going to be a lot of action. A lot of fourth liners going to be moved, a lot of third defensemen, third liners. Maybe the trade deadline picks up a little bit. Maybe we get some trades here. But again, talking with some people about it. Watch the money on these trades now because of the playoff salary cap. I think that's something that's going to be, you're going to have to watch out for if there's going to be some retention on these deals.
Yep. All things that we'll get to see unfold, and things that we'll obviously talk about, as we get later into the season here on the Blue Line Blast podcast. Jim, why don't you take us away on this cold, chilly November night?
Yeah, absolutely. Cold, chilly November night, not like the 55 degrees and sunny out in Colorado. Guys,
moving out there. I'm telling you right now, moving out there.
Yeah, I'm moving out up to the east side, baby. But guys, Blue Line Blast podcast, check it out, subscribe, like the video, comment below. Jim Biringer, Matthew Blittner. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you to Cory Masiak of the Denver Post for coming on as well. We'll be back again next week. Take care.